The bad. What makes a president inherently bad? Because all of them eventually become bad presidents. History tells us that nobody's perfect. Sometimes presidents are so good, other people take them out. Some presidents see the error in their ways. So what makes President Barack Obama so bad? What made me feel the need to implement a bad tribute of my total assessment of President Barack Obama? Well, because I'm not biased. Nothing is perfect. No matter how great, how shining, it is not. President Barack Obama's greatest flaw is his stamina. For we gave him the title of the Black Superman, but he cannot outrun a train. He cannot leap tall buildings in a single bound. He is not bulletproof. He gets tired. He shows emotion. He grows weak with every battle. President Barack Obama eventually had to resort to less favorable tactics, which was relying on his Democratic Party and submitting to a lot of the House and Senate. His ability to fight day in and day out is what ultimately led to his spiral of a downfall. What a lot of people fail to realize about President Barack Obama is his ability to entertain the average mind. His speeches, his mannerisms, his outright ability to have fun on a public scale, on a national site, in a social setting is hypnotizing, especially to the minority demographic. He is the lion tamer, but he is not the ringleader of this circus. He is a puppet who is also having his strings pulled, and a man who also has to think of his own future after being the president. Because to be quite frank, there's not too many jobs out there that you can do after being a president except give speeches for a lot of money. That's what the rest of them are doing. When did things change? When did the tides start to go against the grain? When did President Barack Obama start to subside and become mundane in his approach? When did he start becoming less of the Black Superman we expected him to be? In reality, it was us who was letting him down from the start with these high expectations, and without fully understanding or realizing power struggle that goes into being the president of the United States of America. As I speak today, America's greatest export, which is also our greatest form of revenue on an international and national scale, is arms dealing. We have made so many missiles, it has nearly quadrupled the missiles made during the President Bush presidency. And that's not to be ignored, as we have bombed other countries and areas almost 8 times as much as the Bush administration has. So it's easy for us to say that President Barack Obama has led a tyranny of death in the wake of his positive result. On the outside, he is smooth, calm, and collected, but on the behind-the-scenes scales, he is laying waste and destroying land, people, and lives. The power that the military force has had over our president is stifling, to say the least. In a country where the military can willingly admit to losing $3.3 trillion, why is it so painful for us to agree that we deserve universal health care? Why is it in a country where the top 1% make more than the whole entire middle class, why is it so difficult for them to pay their due amount? Why is it that in America you can learn how to kill people for free in the army but have to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars just to be taken care of? Our country is very backwards, and it no longer is a country of prosperous ideas, development of self, and benefiting your neighbor. It is about making that almighty dollar. Their blatant disregard for the money they have lost or have downright embezzled is mind-numbing. $13 trillion lost by our military system. That would have been enough to drop our national debt 40%. That would have been enough to pay for every single student's college debt tenfold. That would have been enough to feed every single family 3 square meals in America at a $14 rate for 5 years, with then some. That would have been enough for us to reform our medical system and get big business pharmaceuticals off the podium that they are on now, and get government subsidized medication to the forefront so we don't have to rely on businessmen to heal us anymore. There was so much he could have done, but when you look at the mountains he had to climb, it's not hard to believe that he finally gave in, because eventually all of them do. It's all about the money. And a president's true mark is his ability to get out of the system with more than he came in, because at the end of the day, when you're no longer the big boss, you're no longer that important. And the money that you've managed to miss and squander away gets into the hands of your competitors, it's only your fault and you're the only one to blame. Think about the scrutiny that President Barack Obama has gotten for being a good president. Democrats are notoriously known for being soft. In fact, we cower at anything. If we sit here and even begin to point issues and flaws with Republican presidents, we are told that we are stepping out of line and that we should know our place. Democrats are the redheaded stepchild of the government system. That's That's why we can have a president who had an affair get impeached for having sex. Nowhere in the bylaw does it say that a president should be impeached for having sex. So why did Bill Clinton step down? From overall mass appeal and disrespect? Seems kind of lighthearted now, comparing our new presidential candidate to be, who's perfectly fine.
Grab him by the pussy.
And not even to speak ill will of President Barack Obama, but it's kind of hard for us to sit here and take him seriously when he endorsed a person he beat in 2008. That's like Jordan in his prime picking Karl Malone instead of Scottie Pippen to be his running man, because no matter how many times Karl Malone made it to the big dance, he never got to put on the shoes and dance. Same situation goes for endorsing Hillary Clinton. President Barack Obama by this time had already fallen to the death grip, which is the DNC. They were now funding him, supporting him, and guaranteeing that he'll have a lucrative business opportunity outside of his presidential run. For the promises he made on Wall Street, such as bailing out the big banks, such as Wells Fargo, who openly admitted that they forced their employees to underhand and open accounts for their customers without permission, to his outright lies about his immigration policies and what he planned to do with the Syrian refugees, as he has deported and broken up more families than the Bush administration has ever done in its whole entire collective 8-year run. President Barack Obama has let the people down that we don't see. He has let the people down that he doesn't have to answer to. Rightfully so. They can't reach him, so why would they try? Why would he try? How is it President Barack Obama is a native to a city that has been swept in a fury of war, death, and crime? Chicago, Illinois, where there have been more reported deaths and homicides than they can even care to keep up with. In one summer, nearly 500 individuals shot. And let's not just make this a black on black issue. Let's expand this horizon. President Barack Obama is the chief and commander of all forces in the nation. Yet, he has ran a presidential candidacy responsible for seeing the deaths of almost 3,000 of its own civilians using its police force. As a black man, that should infuriate you, especially since 40% of them are black men, women, children, and 30% of them were unarmed. You're the president of the United States of America, and as a black man, I feel you should be more endearing to the people who are suffering. How bad does that make you look? To have a person like Tamir Rice, Eric Gardner, Freddie Gray, Michael Brown, and Sandra Bland all lose their life at the hands of government infrastructures that you control. How bad does it look that your justice system still openly running a racial biased justice system? Don't believe me? This man is walking free after shooting a man in the back 5 times, planting evidence, and lying about it. He's an officer, Michael Slager. President Barack Obama has sat idly, referring to having the states handle such discrepancies in an effort to keep up his popular appearance. But it was a national issue when 12 white children got shot at Sandy Hook. You shedded real tears on TV for those kids, and rightfully so. But that is when I realized you were not the same President Obama that was elected into office. You were not the same compassionate, caring president you promised to be. That is when I started to realize the lies you had been telling us. For a man who does not care for his own people will not care for anyone but himself. This is the plight of war, death incarnate. Something that is easily attached with your name, because you have taken troops out of the Middle East and replaced them with around-the-clock bombings. And if Hillary Clinton is to be called the mother of ISIS, you are the stepfather for sure. You did kill Osama bin Laden, and in exchange we gave them a democratic system that was supposed to be ran on a 2-tier government scale, only to find that the government was handed over to the highest bidder, which led to more dictators and more tyranny, and allowed other countries like Russia to start looking at that battlefield and going after what they really wanted, which was what we all really wanted, which was the oil. We are killing generations of kids to make our country more self-sustaining. If that isn't more American, I don't know what is. I mean, that's how it all started. But it sucks knowing that a black man is doing this, especially since you were alive during a time where you probably couldn't drink water from the same water fountain as someone else. You were alive during a time when you couldn't vote. You were alive during a time where you could have easily been Eric Gardner, Tamir Rice, Freddie Gray. But yet, not once did you ever combat those issues. Not once did you ever make them a national concern. You just played the cards that were dealt to you. And like I said, I don't know how hard it is running the country, but I know one thing's for sure. I would have done anything and everything in my power to protect the people who stood up for me long before they had a right to stand up for themselves. There's a generation of individuals who have been assassinated, sacrificed, arrested, disregarded, and disgraced, who are now being put on manistles and being thoroughly thought of as legends of their kinds. And it sucks to know that your name, your face, your affiliation will go with their names, faces, and affiliations just by default, when upon closer inspection, it's very clear to see you're a hollow shell of the man you used to be. Your promise of gun control and taking this nation back on a peaceful route were hollow threats and very hard to believe, especially when the NRA has given over $5 million to the DNC. Not only have you regressed in your approach and your dominancy, you failed to do the one thing you asked most youthful Americans to do, which is stand up and lead. The Black Lives Matter movement is a direct response to your presidency. For once in our lives, we were told we could be anything we wanted to be, but when the motion started to grow, instead of backing them, instead of leading them, instead of guiding them, you allowed them to run amok. Like a 3-round burst rifle without a handle, many people were caught in the crossfire. And from this, anger and hostility grew. Both sides of the fence began to feel cautious of both sides. With the Black Lives Matter movement growing in numbers, it became very clear that the country we were living in was being divided. And what a better opportunity for you to take that this divide isn't one of negativity, but a positive light. You could have given the minorities a direction, a non-aggressive approach to getting their voices heard, but instead you lied dormant and watched in awe at the aftermath, and then became perplexed when white people in America started to fear. You think Donald Trump winning is some weird phenomenon? It's not. This is a backlash wave, a direct response to the growing power of movements like the Black Lives Matter and the minority youth growing on a political, mental, and economical scale. And although all white people are not the same, it goes without saying the people who went out and voted for Donald Trump didn't vote for him because Hillary Clinton was the worst of the two, but because Donald Trump made them feel comfortable to be white again. He didn't demonize the idea that white people were bad people. In fact, he reinforced the idea of believing making America great was really about making America white again. President Barack Obama, you've had so many missteps in your social strategy. It baffles me that you had such a social presence. But like I said, you're the lion tamer. The lions you're taming were not people of power. They were people in the middle class. The ringleaders, which are the big banks and money on Wall Street, knew eventually you would conform. And you did. And because of it, many of us have suffered. And many of us will continue to suffer. You had the chance to give Bernie Sanders your utmost endorsement. But because of the endorsements that were filling your pockets, you conformed to the system and picked someone who was so unfit to run our country that she had already lost once. America's not a country of losers. We've proven that time and time again. When we lost the basketball tournament in the Olympics, we went out and made a dream team. When the Cubbies were down 3, they said to hell with the curse. And just when you thought heavy is the head that wears the crown, the king rised again. America is a country full of winners. And Barack Obama, you ended up being the biggest loser of 2016. How did you fall from grace? Did you fly too close to the sun? Or did you not aim high enough to start with? What we are witnessing now isn't a graceful descent, but the inevitable crash, which is there is no such thing as a black Superman, because there is no such thing as a Superman. Barack Obama isn't all-knowing and all-powerful, and he is merely just a human who has his own agendas and is out to make sure his situation is better than the next man, even if that means putting a whole entire country to the mercy of one of the world's most destructive forces that we have ever seen. And I will harp on you about your lackadaisical approach to our military, to our prison system. How is it that our prison systems are full, 60% of them, of people of your skin complexion, and is only increasing? How is it that our private prison systems are being ran now by major corporations like Macy's, Sears, and other American-made outlet stores, where if you refuse to work, you get put in a hole? How is that justice? How is that humane? How is that fair? If this was happening anywhere else, we'd be ready to send bombs from above and spew rhetoric such as this is a violation of human rights. How much different are we than the Philippines president? President Barack Obama might not be going around pulling the trigger, killing these people with drugs, but the due process is almost the same in that there is no due process. You're guilty by association. You're guilty by fabrication. You're guilty because of skin color. You're guilty because of demographic. You, the president of our free world, have locked up more of your own citizens than any other country in the whole entire world. You, the most powerful man in the world, runs a country where its soldiers are so afraid of its civilians they shoot within 2 seconds of stopping anybody. You, the leader of America, turn a blind eye to a treaty signed before your time stating this land is promised and guaranteed to the natives of its land, the water protectors of the North Dakota land. But yet you waited 5 weeks for a 50-year-old lady to lose her eyesight, a 21-year-old woman to lose her arm, and 64 people who protested peacefully to be given felons and have their records altered for the rest of their lives. You punished those people for fighting and standing up for their rights and blatantly ignored fire hoses being sprayed upon defenseless protesters by a brutalizing, inhumane police department and didn't even bat an eye. You could have ended their suffering within days, but you decided to wait 5 weeks. What type of monster are you is the real question, because it's clear to see that you don't really care about what goes on to the common man. What changed you? What made you so cold? What made your heart so dark? Is it possible for someone to stop caring about people when you've been put in charge of taking care of everybody? Is there a limit to how much one man can do? Is 8 years of perseverance and delegating a country so stressful that it would drive you to ignore the blatant criminal acts going on in your own world? In the eyes of the few, but in the minds of many, you let us down. You hurt us more than you helped us. And by you not being able to stand up and actually take a real approach to the next presidential candidate, you have put us in the worst predicament we would have ever been in. In retrospect, you losing to Mitt Romney in 2012 might have been a heaven sent, as it would have better prepared us to handle.
Disgrace, and I think they ought to apologize to start with Michael Cohen.
Since you're attacking us, can you give us a question? Mr. President-elect.
Go ahead.
Mr. President-elect, since you are attacking our news organization, can you give us a chance?
Your organization
You are attacking our news organization. Can you give us a chance to ask a question, sir?
Go ahead.
Sir, can you state, Mr. President-elect,
go ahead.
Can you state categorically?
She's asking a question. Don't
Mr.
be rude.
President-elect, can you give us a question?
Don't be rude.
You're attacking us. Can you give us a question?
Don't be rude.
Can you give us a question?
I'm not going to give you a question.
Can you state categorically?
You are fake news.
Sir,
go ahead.
Can you state categorically that nobody... No, Mr. President-elect, that's not appropriate.
President Obama went too far with the sanctions he put on Russia after the hacking. Do you think they're disproportionate?
I don't think he went too far.
And what will you roll them back? And what do you think of Lindsey Graham?
I don't say...
Thanks, Obama.